Listen, I know you've been driving for decades. You've seen roads evolve, cars transform from simple machines into rolling computers, and traffic rules shift over the years. But what's happening right now in 2026 is different. These aren't just minor tweaks to existing laws. We're talking about fundamental changes in how traffic violations are detected, recorded, and punished, and many of these changes seem designed to catch people who've been driving safely for years. Let me start with something that sounds almost unbelievable. In New York, beginning this Saturday, you can actually receive a ticket for driving just 1 mile per hour over the speed limit. Yes, you heard that right, 1 single mile per hour. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's ridiculous. How is anyone supposed to keep their speedometer exactly on the limit when you're watching the road, checking mirrors, and dealing with other drivers? You're absolutely right to question it, but that's the reality we're facing. Those automated speed cameras that have been popping up around school zones and major intersections, they're not just suggestions anymore. They're actively issuing tickets, and they don't care if you are only going 26 in a 25 zone because you are going slightly downhill. These cameras are spreading everywhere, not just in New York. Cities and towns across America have discovered that speed cameras are incredibly profitable. They work 24 hours a day, never take a break, never call in sick, and generate ticket after ticket without requiring a police officer to pull anyone over. For you, this means that even if you've been driving the same route to church or the supermarket for 20 years, there might suddenly be a camera there that wasn't there last month. And here's the kicker. You won't know you got a ticket until it arrives in your mailbox 2 or 3 weeks later, along with a photo of your car and a fine that typically starts around $150. But it gets more complicated, especially if you're 70 or older. Starting February 1st, many states are implementing new rules specifically targeting senior drivers. Now, before you get upset, I understand this feels discriminatory. After all, you might be a safer driver than your 40-year-old neighbor who's constantly distracted. But the law doesn't see it that way. If you're over 70, you may now be required to renew your license in person rather than online or by mail. This means taking time out of your day to visit the Department of Motor Vehicles, which, as we all know, can mean sitting in uncomfortable plastic chairs for hours. Some states are also requiring more frequent vision tests and even road tests to prove you can still drive safely. The administrative costs alone, the time, the potential need to take multiple trips if you don't have the right documents, can add up quickly. Now let's talk about something that affects everyone but hits older drivers particularly hard: the absolute crackdown on cell phone use while driving. You might remember when these laws first came out and police officers would give warnings or look the other way if you were just holding your phone at a red light. Those days are completely gone. In 2026, if a police officer sees you holding your phone while you're behind the wheel, even if your car is stopped at a traffic light, even if you're not actively talking or texting, they can pull you over and write you a ticket on the spot. This is called primary enforcement, which means they don't need any other reason to stop you. The phone violation alone is enough. These tickets aren't cheap either. Depending on where you live, a first offense for holding your phone while driving can cost anywhere from $150 to $500. But the real pain comes later when your insurance company finds out. Insurance companies treat distracted driving violations very seriously, and your premiums could jump by 20 to 30% for the next 3 to 5 years. If you're on a fixed income, that kind of increase can really hurt your budget. Here's something even stranger that some communities are trying: fines for having a messy car. Yes, you read that correctly. In places like Hilton Head, South Carolina, local ordinances now allow police to fine you if your vehicle has excessive garbage or junk visible inside. The reasoning is that it's unsightly and violates community standards, but the result is that you could face a $500 fine or even jail time for having old coffee cups, fast food bags, or newspapers scattered in your back seat. It sounds absurd, and frankly, it is, but it's real, and it's happening in more places as communities look for additional revenue sources. The point system that governs your license is also getting much stricter. You might not think about points very often, but every ticket you receive adds points to your driving record. Different violations carry different point values, and when you accumulate too many points within a certain time period, your license can be suspended. What's changed in 2026 is that the threshold for suspension has gotten lower in many states, and the points stay on your record longer. A couple of speeding tickets and a distracted driving violation that might have been manageable 5 years ago could now result in losing your license entirely. For someone who depends on driving to get to doctor's appointments, visit family, or maintain independence, losing your license is devastating. Let me also mention something critical about school zones. Automated cameras in school zones have become incredibly common, and the fines there are typically double or triple what they would be on a regular street. The problem is that school zone hours aren't always clearly marked, and they vary by location. You might drive through an area at 8:30 in the morning thinking school has already started and the zone is no longer active, but the cameras say otherwise. One woman in California received 4 separate tickets in a single week, totaling over $800 because she didn't realize the school zone camera near her home was active until 9 in the morning, not 8 as she'd assumed. Now, I want to talk about something that's particularly important for those of you who enjoy a glass of wine with dinner or a beer while watching the game. DUI laws have always been serious, but in 2026, the consequences have become even more severe. Several states, including California, have expanded punishment for driving under the influence, lengthening probation periods and requiring ignition interlock devices for longer periods of time. An ignition interlock device is essentially a breathalyzer connected to your car's ignition. You have to blow into it to prove you're sober before your car will start, and you have to pay for the installation and monthly monitoring fees yourself, which typically runs between $75 and $150 per month. A single DUI conviction can easily cost you $10,000 or more when you add up fines, legal fees, increased insurance, and the interlock device. The message is clear. If you're going to drink, don't drive, period. What makes all of this particularly challenging is that these laws aren't consistent across state lines. If you travel or have family in different states, you need to be aware that what's legal in your home state might get you ticketed elsewhere. Some states require hands-free devices for phone calls, others ban phones entirely. Some states have aggressive camera enforcement, others barely use it. The patchwork nature of these laws means you really need to research the rules before driving in unfamiliar areas. So, what can you do to protect yourself and your wallet? First, treat speed limits as absolute. Gone are the days when 5 over was acceptable. Keep your speedometer right at the posted limit, especially in areas with cameras. Second, put your phone completely out of reach while driving in the glove box, in your purse in the back seat, anywhere you can't grab it on impulse. Consider a simple rule. The phone doesn't exist when the car is moving. Third, be aware of camera locations in your area. Many communities publish maps of where traffic cameras are located. Fourth, keep your car reasonably tidy, especially if you live in or travel through communities with strict ordinance enforcement. Finally, if you're over 70, check your state's specific requirements for license renewal now, before your renewal date arrives, so you're prepared with the right documents and information. These changes feel overwhelming because they are overwhelming. The driving world you knew for decades is shifting beneath you, often in ways that seem designed more to generate revenue than to improve safety. But knowledge is power. Understanding these new rules means you can adapt, protect your driving record, and avoid expensive surprises. You've navigated change before, and you'll navigate this too.